Look at this woman's face. December 31st, 1897. Clara Bellows stands in the center of her house, hands trembling as green light spills from the box before her. The walls shake. Something massive pushes against reality itself. She reaches inside, touches the key, and screams. Her choice is simple: lock the door and vanish forever, or let every soul in Deadwood be dragged into darkness. She chooses, and in that moment, Clara Bellows erases herself from existence. Stay with me, because what I am about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about this story. You clicked on this video because you heard about Clara Bellows, and trust me, you are in exactly the right place. What happened in Deadwood, South Dakota in 1897 will shake you to your core. This is not just another ghost story. This is about a woman who carried secrets so dark that even death could not keep them buried. Deadwood in 1897 was a town trying to forget its wild past. The gold rush had faded. The gunslingers were gone. Respectable families now walked streets that once ran red with blood. But Clara Bellows was not respectable. She was something far more interesting. She was something people whispered about when their children left the room. Clara arrived in Deadwood in the spring of 1895. Nobody knew where she came from. She told different stories to different people. To some, she was a widow from Chicago. To others, she was the daughter of a railroad baron. Some claimed she was running from the law. Others believed she was running from something far worse. The truth is, nobody really knew Clara Bellows at all. She rented a small house on the edge of town. The house had been empty for 3 years. The previous owner had died under strange circumstances. People said the place was cursed. Clara did not seem to care. She moved in on a Tuesday afternoon with nothing but 2 trunks and a locked wooden box she would not let anyone touch. The neighbors tried to be friendly at first. Mrs. Patterson from next door brought over a pie. Clara thanked her but did not invite her inside. Mr. Chun from the general store offered to help with repairs. Clara politely declined. She kept to herself. She spoke to no one unless absolutely necessary. And every night, without fail, candles burned in her windows until dawn. People started talking. In a town like Deadwood, where everyone knew everyone's business, Clara Bellows was a mystery nobody could solve. What was she doing in that house all night? Why did she never attend church? Why did strange visitors arrive at odd hours and leave before sunrise? The questions piled up like snow in winter, and Clara never gave a single answer. Then the accidents started happening. Small things at first. Mrs. Patterson's dog died suddenly. No explanation. Mr. Chen's son fell ill with a fever that doctors could not identify. The Hendersons' barn burned down on a windless night. One by one, anyone who tried to get close to Clara Bellows suffered some misfortune. Coincidence, people said at first, but after 6 months, nobody believed in coincidence anymore. Clara became the town pariah. Parents pulled their children inside when she walked by. Shop owners served her quickly and refused her money, just wanting her gone. The preacher tried to visit her once. He left her house pale and shaking, and he never spoke of what he saw inside. Whatever Clara Bellows was hiding, it was powerful enough to scare a man of God. But here's what nobody understood then. Here's what makes this story truly terrifying. Clara was not the villain in this tale. She was trying to protect Deadwood from something. She was keeping a secret that could destroy everyone. And in 1897, That secret finally broke free. The question is not what Clara was hiding. The question is whether she died trying to stop it, or whether she died because she finally let it out. Every horror story has an object, a cursed item, a forbidden thing that should never be opened. For Clara Bellows, it was that wooden box. The box she brought with her from wherever she came from. The box she guarded more carefully than her own life. And the box that eventually cost her everything. The box was not large, about the size of a bread loaf, made from dark wood that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. It had strange carvings on all sides, symbols that looked like no language anyone in Deadwood recognized. Some said they were Native American. Others claimed they were from the old country. A traveling scholar passing through town took one look at the carvings and immediately left on the next stagecoach. He would not say why. Clara kept the box in her bedroom. She never let it out of her sight. The one time her landlord tried to enter her house while she was out, he found the door barred from the inside. Impossible, since Clara had just left through that very door. Yet somehow, the door would not open. When Clara returned, it opened without problem. The landlord never tried again. People became obsessed with that box. What could be inside? Money? Jewels? Documents that could ruin someone powerful? The theories ran wild. Some said it contained the deed to a fortune. Others believed it held evidence of a terrible crime. The more romantic folks thought it might contain love letters from a forbidden affair. But the truth was far stranger than any of them imagined. A young man named Tommy Fletcher decided to find out. Tommy was brave and stupid in equal measure. He worked odd jobs around town and fancied himself quite the charmer. He figured if he could get close to Clara, maybe she would show him what was in the box. Maybe she was just lonely. Maybe she needed a friend. Tommy did not understand that Clara stayed alone for a very good reason. He started leaving flowers on her doorstep. She never acknowledged them. He tried to strike up conversations at the market. She walked away. He offered to fix her broken fence. She told him to leave her property. But Tommy was persistent, and persistence in this case was a fatal mistake. One evening in late summer, Tommy snuck around to Clara's window. He wanted to peek inside, just a quick look, just to see what she did in there all night. What he saw made him stumble backward. Clara was kneeling in front of the box. It was open, and inside something was moving. Something that glowed with a sick green light. Something that seemed to breathe and pulse like it was alive. Tommy ran. He ran all the way to the saloon and drank himself into a stupor. He told everyone what he had seen. Most people laughed. Some people believed him. But everyone agreed on one thing. Tommy Fletcher was never quite right after that night. His hands shook constantly. He had nightmares that made him scream. And exactly 1 month later, Tommy disappeared completely. His body was found 3 days later in the woods outside town. The official report said animal attack, but there were no animals in those woods large enough to do what was done to Tommy Fletcher. Clara came to the funeral. She stood at the back. She did not cry. She did not speak. But some people swear they heard her whisper something as they lowered Tommy into the ground. 2 words, over and over. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. After Tommy died, nobody went near Clara Bellows anymore. Nobody brought her flowers. Nobody tried to talk to her. Nobody even looked at her if they could help it. She had become a ghost haunting her own life. And that box in her bedroom had become the most feared object in all of Deadwood. People started having the same nightmare. They dreamed of that box opening. They dreamed of what came out. And they always woke up screaming. Clara Bellows did not live alone. Not really, because at night, when honest people slept, her house came alive with visitors. Visitors that arrived in darkness and left before dawn. Visitors that nobody could quite identify. Visitors that moved wrong, sounded wrong, felt wrong. The first person to notice was old Samuel Grimes. Samuel was the town drunk. He spent most nights wandering the streets, too soaked in whiskey to find his way home. People ignored Samuel, but Samuel noticed things that sober people missed. And what he noticed outside Clara's house made him quit drinking forever. It was a Tuesday night in October. Samuel was stumbling past Clara's house when he saw the door open. A figure stepped out, tall, wearing a long coat and a wide-brimmed hat. Nothing strange about that, except the figure did not walk. It glided. Its feet never touched the ground. Samuel blinked hard. Surely he was seeing things. But no. The figure floated down the path, turned the corner, and vanished into thin air. Samuel stood there for 20 minutes, stone sober with fear. He never touched another drop of alcohol. The sightings increased. Martha Colby saw 3 figures entering Clara's house at 2 in the morning. They knocked in a specific pattern. 5 knocks, pause, 2 knocks, pause, 1 knock. The door opened instantly. Clara stood in the doorway, and Martha swears Clara looked terrified. Not of the visitors. Clara looked terrified of what might happen if she did not let them inside. Jacob Reed was working late at the print shop. His window faced Clara's house. He watched a woman approach Clara's door. The woman knocked the same pattern. Clara answered. They spoke for several minutes. Then the visitor reached up and removed her hat. Except it was not a hat. It was her entire head. She lifted her head off her shoulders and handed it to Clara like a package. Clara took it inside. The headless body stood on the porch, waiting. 10 minutes later, Clara returned the head. The woman placed it back on her shoulders and walked away. Jacob did not sleep for a week. The stories kept coming. A man made of shadow. A child who cried tears of blood. A woman whose face changed every time she blinked. Deadwood was a frontier town. People had seen violence and death. But this was different. This was wrong on a level that made their souls hurt. Some brave fools tried to confront Clara. A group of men from the church decided to perform an intervention. They showed up at her door on a Sunday afternoon. The preacher was with them for moral support. Clara let them in. They were inside for less than 5 minutes. When they came out, every single one of them was pale and shaking. They would not say what Clara showed them. They would not say what she told them. But they never bothered her again. And 2 of those men left Deadwood permanently within the week. The truth was becoming clear. Clara was not conducting some criminal enterprise. She was not running a secret club. She was not even practicing witchcraft, though many suspected. Clara was doing something far more important. She was meeting with things that should not exist. She was negotiating with creatures from somewhere else, and she was doing it to keep them away from everyone else in Deadwood. Think about that for a moment. While the town slept peacefully, Clara Bellows stood between them and nightmares made flesh. Every night, she opened her door to horrors. Every night, she faced things that could destroy her with a thought. Every night, she bargained and pleaded and sacrificed to keep those things contained. And every night, it cost her a little more of her humanity. The midnight visitors were not Clara's allies. They were her burden. They were the price she paid for whatever was in that locked box. They were the consequence of knowledge she wished she had never learned. And as 1897 wore on, the visitors came more frequently. They stayed longer. They grew bolder. Clara was losing control, and everyone in Deadwood could feel it. The air itself felt heavy. Animals acted strange. Children had nightmares. Something bad was coming, and Clara Bellows was running out of time to stop it. December 1897. Winter hit Deadwood like a hammer. Snow piled high. Temperatures dropped so low that water froze inside homes. People stayed indoors, huddled by fires, waiting for spring. But Clara Bellows was out every night, walking the streets, checking doors, drawing symbols in the snow that melted as soon as she finished them. She looked exhausted. She looked haunted. She looked like a woman who knew the end was coming. The breaking point started with the children. 5 children in Deadwood began having the same nightmare. Every single night, the same exact dream. They dreamed of a door opening. They dreamed of something stepping through. They dreamed of Clara trying to close the door, but failing. And they dreamed of what came next. What came next made them wake up screaming, so loud the entire neighborhood heard. Parents compared notes. The dreams were identical, down to every detail. Same door, same room, same creature. This was not coincidence. This was not imagination. Something was reaching out to the most vulnerable minds in town. Something was testing the barriers, and Clara's protections were failing. Then people started disappearing. Not dying, disappearing. There is a difference. Death leaves a body. Disappearance leaves only questions. First it was old Henry Morgan. He went to bed one night and was simply gone by morning. His bed was still warm. His nightshirt was on the floor. But Henry was nowhere. The sheriff organized search parties. They found nothing. Not a track. Not a clue. Nothing. 3 days later, Sarah Jennings vanished. Same situation. She was in her kitchen one moment. Her husband stepped outside to get wood. He came back 2 minutes later. Sarah was gone. The door was still locked from the inside. The windows were sealed shut. Yet Sarah had vanished like smoke. Her husband went mad with grief. He spent the rest of his life searching for her. He never found a single trace. The disappearances accelerated. 1 person a week, then 2, then 3. Deadwood was falling apart with fear. People accused each other. Vigilante groups formed. Some blamed Clara directly. Others believed she was the only thing keeping them all from vanishing. The town split into factions. Neighbor turned against neighbor. Fear does that to people. Fear makes monsters of us all. Clara tried to explain. She called a town meeting. Over 100 people showed up. Some came to listen. Most came to condemn. Clara stood before them and told the truth. She told them about the box. She told them what it contained. She told them why she came to Deadwood. And she told them that she was losing the fight. Here's what Clara said. The box contained a key. Not a physical key. A key to somewhere else. Another place. Another dimension. A place where things lived that should never touch our world. Clara's family had guarded that key for generations. It was their curse, their duty, their punishment for an ancestor who had opened doors that should stay closed forever. Clara was the last of her line. She came to Deadwood because it was remote, because it was isolated, because if something went wrong, fewer people would die. But something had gone wrong. The key was failing. The door was opening. and the things on the other side were coming through. The midnight visitors were not invaders. They were refugees. They were fleeing from something worse. They were running from what was about to break through. And when it arrived, when it fully crossed over, Deadwood would cease to exist. Everyone in town would be taken, not killed, taken to that other place, forever. The crowd did not believe her. How could they? It sounded insane. It sounded like the ravings of a madwoman. People shouted. People threw things. The sheriff had to restore order. Clara left the meeting with her head down. She had tried to warn them. She had tried to prepare them. But fear makes people stupid. Fear makes people reject the truth, even when it is staring them in the face. That night, Clara made a decision. If the town would not help her, she would handle it alone. She would do what her family had always done. She would sacrifice herself to close the door, because that was the only way. The key required blood. It required life. It required someone to willingly step through the door and lock it from the other side. Forever. Clara had always known it might come to this. She had hoped to find another way. But time had run out. The door was opening, and she had to stop it. December 31st, 1897. The last day of the year. The last day of Clara Bellows' life. Though to be fair, calling it life might be too generous. Clara had been dying slowly since the day she arrived in Deadwood. Every negotiation with the visitors took a piece of her. Every night protecting the town drained her soul. By that final morning, Clara Bellows was more ghost than woman. She spent the day preparing. She wrote letters. She burned them. She wrote more letters. She burned those too. What do you say when you are about to sacrifice yourself? What words make sense when you are walking into oblivion to save people who hate you? Clara found no words worth keeping, so she stopped writing and started working. She covered every surface of her house with symbols. The walls, the floor, the ceiling, every inch, drawn in chalk, in charcoal, in her own blood when the other materials ran out. The symbols were protection, not for her, for the town. One last barrier, one last defense. If she failed, if the door opened completely, these symbols might buy Deadwood a few extra hours. Enough time to run, enough time to survive. As night fell, Clara took the box from her bedroom. She carried it to the center of her main room. She cleared a space. She sat down cross-legged. She placed the box in front of her, and she waited. The visitors would come one last time. They had to. It was New Year's Eve. The barrier between worlds was thinnest. The door was already cracking. She could feel it. She could hear it. The sound of something massive pushing against reality itself. The first visitor arrived at midnight. Exactly. It was the tall man in the coat. The one who glided. He knocked the pattern. Clara did not move. She did not answer. He knocked again. Harder. The door shook. Clara closed her eyes and whispered words in a language no human should speak. The knocking stopped. The visitor waited outside. More would come. Many more. They arrived one by one. The woman with the removable head. The shadow man. The crying child. Others that had never been seen before. Things with too many eyes. Things with no face at all. Things that hurt to look at. They surrounded the house. They knocked. They called out. They begged Clara to let them through. They were terrified. Whatever was coming scared even them. But Clara could not help them anymore. She had to focus everything on closing the door. Inside the house, Clara opened the box. The green light spilled out. It filled the room. It pulsed with sick rhythm. Inside the box was the key. But the key was not made of metal. It was made of darkness, of void, of the absence of everything. Clara reached inside. Her hand touched the key. The moment they connected, Clara screamed. Pain beyond description. Pain that was physical, mental, and spiritual all at once. But she did not let go. The house began to shake. The symbols on the walls glowed. The visitors outside scattered. They knew what was coming. Clara lifted the key from the box. It writhed in her hands like a living thing. It wanted to return to the door. It wanted to open wide and let everything through. Clara fought it. She bent it to her will. She forced it to obey. And with every ounce of strength she had left, she commanded the key to close and lock forever. The door, the invisible door between worlds, slammed shut. The sound was heard across all of Deadwood. Windows shattered. Pictures fell from walls. Dogs howled. Horses panicked. And in Clara's house, there was silence. Complete and total silence. The key had done its work. The door was closed. But the price was Clara's life. Her soul. Her very existence. She had stepped through at the last moment. She had locked it from the other side. Just like her ancestors before her. Just like the blood of her family demanded. When the sheriff broke down Clara's door the next morning, they found the house empty. The symbols remained on the walls, but they were dark now. Powerless. The box sat in the center of the room. Empty. And Clara Bellows was gone. Vanished. Not a trace. Not a hair. Not a drop of blood. She had erased herself from this world completely. So now you know the story of Clara Bellows. But stories are never that simple, are they? Because here is what the town discovered in the weeks and months after she disappeared. Here's what makes this story truly haunt me. Clara might not have been the hero we just described. She might have been something far more complicated. When people finally dared to enter Clara's house, they found her letters. The ones she wrote and burned. Except she did not burn all of them. A few survived. And those letters told a very different story. Clara did not come to Deadwood to protect anyone. She came because she was running. She came because she had already failed once before. In another town. In another place. Where dozens of people died. Where the door opened and things came through and destroyed everything. Clara was not the last guardian of an ancient key. She was the thief who stole it. She took it from her family because she thought she could use it. She thought she could control the power. She thought she could open doors and explore other worlds safely. But she was wrong. And when everything went wrong, she ran. She took the key and ran to Deadwood. And she spent 2 years trying to fix what she had broken. The midnight visitors were not refugees. They were hunters. They were tracking the key. They were trying to get it back before Clara made things worse. Some of them were trying to help. Others were trying to punish her. But all of them knew that an amateur holding that kind of power was dangerous. Like a child holding a loaded gun. Eventually, someone gets hurt. The disappearances in Deadwood might not have been caused by something trying to break through. They might have been Clara's doing. She needed energy. She needed power to fuel her final spell. And that power had to come from somewhere. From someone. Life force. Stolen souls. The people who vanished might have been Clara's sacrifice. Her fuel. Her bloody payment for closing a door she never should have opened. Was Clara Bellows a hero who saved Deadwood? Or was she a villain who caused the danger in the first place and then cleaned up her own mess? The answer is probably both. People are complicated. We do terrible things for good reasons. We make mistakes that hurt others. And sometimes trying to fix those mistakes requires even worse actions. Here is what I think happened. Clara was young once, curious, ambitious. She found the key in her family's keeping. She was told never to touch it. But Clara was smart. Clara thought she knew better. She used the key. She opened doors. And things went horribly wrong. People died because of her curiosity. So she took the key and ran. She went to Deadwood to hide, to atone, to spend however long she had left making sure nobody else paid for her mistakes. She protected Deadwood for 2 years. She kept the door closed through pure willpower. She negotiated with things that wanted to kill her. She sacrificed sleep, health, and sanity. But in the end, even that was not enough. The door was opening. So Clara did the only thing left. She took a few final souls to power her spell. And she stepped through the door herself. She locked it from the other side. Not as a hero, as a prisoner, as someone accepting their punishment, accepting their fate. Clara Bellows haunts Deadwood to this day. People see her in windows. They hear her footsteps at night. They find symbols drawn in the snow that melt by morning. Some say she is still protecting the town. Others believe she is trapped, forever paying for what she did. Maybe both are true. Maybe Clara's ghost walks the line between redemption and damnation, never quite reaching either. The real question is not whether Clara was good or evil. The real question is what you would do in her place. If you made a terrible mistake, if people died because of you, would you run? Would you hide? Or would you spend the rest of your existence trying to make it right, knowing you never truly could? That is the haunting secret of Clara Bellows. Not that she saved Deadwood, not that she sacrificed herself, but that she was human, flawed, desperate, trying her best in a situation with no good answers. And in the end, maybe that is more terrifying than any monster. Because we are all Clara Bellows. We all make mistakes. We all hurt people. We all have to decide whether we will run from our consequences or face them. Clara chose to face hers, and it cost her everything. So the next time you are in Deadwood, if you see a woman standing in the shadows, if you hear knocking in a specific pattern, if you find symbols drawn where no symbols should be, remember Clara Bellows. Remember that monsters are not always the things with claws and teeth. Sometimes monsters are people who tried to do the right thing and failed. And sometimes, just sometimes, those people keep trying even after death. Even when it is too late. Even when nobody remembers their name. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button. Subscribe for more haunting tales from America's dark history. And leave a comment telling me what you think really happened to Clara Bellows. Was she a hero, a villain, or something in between? I want to hear your theories. Until next time, stay curious, and maybe leave some doors closed.